Welcome, everybody, back to the Fire Talk podcast and YouTube channel. For today's episode, we're going to be discussing Juan Soto as he recently declined a 13-year, $350 million deal from the Nationals. And of course, speculation is going to come with that. Is Juan Soto going to be on the trading block? Is he going to get moved? Is he a lock to leave the Nationals in 2025 when he becomes a free agent? And a bunch of rumors are swirling. And of course, everyone on the Padres got excited. We've actually talked about in the past, Juan Soto almost was a Padre. If he would have waited to accept the Nationals offer by one day, the Padres offered him double when he was signed as an international free agent a few years back. So going to Juan Soto, we know he's good friends with Fernando Tatis. I think this is probably, if you added Juan Soto, this is probably two of the most exciting young superstars in the league. And so my question for you guys is, the first question, I guess, is there any chance that Juan Soto is traded from the Nationals this year or even next year? Chase, you could start.
See, that's a tough one because you look at guys like Juan Soto, you get like the Bryce Harpers, the Fernando Tatises, the Mike Trouts, the Otanis, and the only example of where a guy like that has been traded was sort of Stanton after he signed his contract, his 13-year contract with the Marlins, and when he got traded to the Yankees, and that was considered to be quite the prospect haul. So I don't remember the entire deal. I remember a lot of Yankees fans were kind of upset with it at first because they thought they gave up a lot and they were taking on, I think, the entirety of Stanton's contract. But outside of that, you really haven't seen a major star dealt like that, maybe other than Trey Turner and Scherzer packaged in a deal at the deadline. But that's even different then because Juan Soto was just a runner-up for the MVP. He's consistently always on base, consistently one of the best bats in the MLB. And he's only, I think, 22, right? Maybe 23 now. And you just don't give up on that kind of talent. You try to build around it. So even if the Nationals couldn't get a 13-year offer done for $350 million, I don't think they're going to trade him right away because I don't think a lot of teams can fit the demand of what they want. They're probably going to want like at least two MLB ready prospects, another probably two top 10, top 15 guys. That's a lot of talent to give up right away. Though you do get Juan Soto for another 3 years, it's a hard price to pay for the future. You're giving up multiple guys that could be the next Juan Soto. Not saying it's going to be likely, but there's always that chance. I mean, look at the Padres when they traded Trey Turner for Will Myers. We thought Will Myers was going to be the next best thing. And he just kind of turned out to be your everyday average right fielder. And Trey Turner ended up being a superstar shortstop. I mean, there's multiple examples of this. That's just the one that pops into my head. So I think he gets traded maybe in 2 years. Definitely not this year. You know, maybe someone tries to buy a big bat at the end of the year. He's going to be a free agent. I think that's the most likely scenario. But I do think the Nationals aren't going to trade him and that they're going to continue to try to build around him and keep him there in Washington.
Yeah, if it were to come down to the trade, I think the only person I'd give up more for in a trade would, and I mean, I'm not saying this would ever happen in any point, but the only person I would be willing to give up more for than I would for Juan Soto is Shohei Ohtani. So second on that list would be Juan Soto. I think even if it were to take a top 5 prospect, a top 10 prospect, multiple of those, whatever it is, I think this is the kind of guy that's worth it. That he's your Ted Williams. He's the new Ted Williams. I look at his slash line right now. It's like he bats 301. His OPS, his career OPS is like a 982, 992, something like that. Something absurd. So that's the kind of guy that, that's the argument where I hear arguments. If, prospects don't always pan out, so why are you scared to trade them? In this instance, no, I'm not scared to trade anyone. That's Juan Soto. I'll plug him into my lineup, and he's going to be consistent. He's shown consistency. However, will he be traded? No, probably not. We also got to remember that this is a business. It wouldn't be the most surprising thing, but it's a business. The Nationals, that's their most marketable player. Bryce Harper left, and I thought they were screwed. The new Ted Williams comes in, and that's instantly their new marketable player. He was the backbone of their World Series, or one of the backbones of their World Series team. He's second in MVP. He's probably gonna win the Silver Slugger every year. Like, that's not the kind of guy that you want to get rid of so fast. You still want to try and win with him, even if it doesn't look likely. So no, I don't think he'd be traded. But I mean, of course, I'd love to see it. But the thing is, if we were to see it, it would be to a team that we don't want to see him traded to, and that'd be like the Dodgers, the Mets, the Yankees. Like, I think that's a fact. So will he be traded? No, probably not. But man, would he be? He'd probably be the hottest thing on the market, easily.
Yeah, I find this to be a really fascinating one, just because I do not think there's a chance that the Washington Nationals are going to trade Juan Soto. I mean, you look at how great he's been. He's only 23 years old. He's under contract for 2022, 2023, and 2024. He's not a free agent until 2025. He has 3 more years under his deal. However, is there even a chance that he's going to re-sign? And that's the big question I have. And if the answer is no, if Juan Soto has told the Nationals, and I'm not saying he did, I'm just saying if he did, that I'm not going to be resigning here. I'm going to leave in 2025, or if I'm traded before. This is the best time they could trade him. This is the highest you're going to have. This would probably be one of, like, over the next, like, or the last 10, next 10, like, probably the biggest trade in terms of how much it would cost to go get a guy like him, because he is a young superstar player, and young superstar players don't get traded unless he is 100% sure he's going to leave. Because right now, it's not like they're playing for a championship. They sold hard at the deadline. They already got their championship with Juan Soto. Now, if they're not going to be good for the next 3 years, and I do not expect them to, what are you doing holding on to Juan Soto to let him walk in free agency? That makes absolutely no sense. And even then, what are you doing if you hold Juan Soto for 2 years and then you trade him at the deadline in his final year of his deal? Like, you're not getting that much. Look at, like, the Manny Machado trade for the Orioles to the Dodgers. Like, it's not the level that I think, like, a lot of people, like, expect, like, a guy to get traded when it's like that half-year deal or that 1-year deal and they're at the end of their contract. But if you trade him when he has 3 years of control, the Padres would give up CJ Abrams and a lot more for Juan Soto. You would get premier players across the board. So if you're trying to tank and rebuild, I think it makes more sense for the Nationals to trade him. I know it sounds insane because you're trading Juan Soto, but look at their position. Like, they're not trying to win right now. They're not in a winning spot. Now, that's only if they don't think they can get him. They can get a deal with him. And if they offered him 13 years, $350 million, I don't expect that it's going to get done. Like, I don't think it's like, hey, if you offered me 370, I would have said yes. No, I think it's that he doesn't want to play there. Like, and maybe he's not gonna be like rude about it or like, crappy about it to the fans. But I just think his, like, look, I don't really see myself being here for 13 years. And I think that's super fair. And I think that, with that said, I think that he's going to be a guy that it doesn't happen, and he's either going to get traded in the final year or he's going to walk in free agency. And we're going to look back on this and go, wow, what were the Nationals doing with Juan Soto in 2022 and 2023? Like, they didn't do anything. It was just kind of a waste where you could trade him and get all these guys. But I do think that he eventually will be a free agent in 2025. And I find it really interesting. And this will be the next kind of question I have for you guys. But I think he could become a Padre in 2025 if he becomes a free agent and no one extends him. If he's on the market and you start looking at these contracts that are going to be up, I think Hosmer might have 1 more year in his deal. I think he would have 1 more year, but he'd be $13 million. Myers' deal would be gone. I believe Darvish's deal would be gone. Like, a lot of the money for the Padres would not be there anymore. If they have an opportunity to go get Juan Soto and AJ Preller is still the GM and they're still spending a lot of money, they will make a swing for Juan Soto. And I think that this would be one of his top listed places. I really do. I think if you ended up having a lineup where your 2, 3, 4 in any order are Tatis, Manny, and Soto, that is probably as stupid as it gets. That is insane. So I don't know. I think for the Padres, it makes more sense as signing him in 2025 just because I don't think he will be traded. However, if he was on the market, I would give up Abrams plus for him. And I mean, we've talked about Abrams a lot. We are super high on Abrams. So that says a lot about how good of a player Juan Soto is. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Juan Soto, free agency 2025?
I agree with you there. What I think Juan Soto is doing is you can definitely see the Washington Nationals are going to rebuild. And if I was a player, they're trying to get him to sign right now when they're at their lowest, because then they can build around him for the next 13 years. But Juan Soto is smart in not signing. But I think he's going to do is he's going to wait these 3 years. He's going to wait until 2025 to see if the Nationals are going to be in any position to win when he's in his prime. And if they are, he's going to re-sign with the Nationals, because you know what? That's his home team. They brought him up when he was 19, believed in him. He brought them to a World Series. It's kind of hard to leave that. So I think within the next 2 years, he's going to make his decision whether or not he's going to walk or stay. Because, you know, the Nationals did get quite the haul. They got the Dodgers' 2 top prospects, and Josiah Gray, and I'm forgetting the other guy. But Josiah Gray has already been pitching in the MLB, so probably give him another 2 years. He might be a top-end guy in the league. And if you build around those two, the rotation and then the outfield, they have Josh Bell at first base. They have a couple of guys that are decent hitters that they can build around Soto with. They're not in a horrible position. They're not like the Padres of 2014, 2013, 2017. You know, they're in a better position than we were back then. So they could go through a relatively short rebuild, and then Juan Soto's right on track to be a National for the rest of his life. So I want him to be a free agent in 2025. I don't know if it's likely. It just all depends on how the Nationals decide to rebuild.
So I think each factor you guys brought up is an important factor. However, I think another big factor, quite the biggest, he could be the first $500 million baseball player. At this rate, he could make 450, 500 million. That was Mike Trout's contract, like in the 400s. And I've seen multiple reports already saying that it's possible he could be baseball's first $500 million man. And it makes me think, damn, Fernando took like a 13 or 14-year deal for 340. You look at it, it looked big. It's a bargain now, because baseball's market's only going to get, it's going to get more and more and more expensive to sign these big time players, especially one that bats 301 and hits 980 and has a career average of a 982 OPS. Like the Ted Williams, I already said it, the Ted Williams of this generation. So, I mean, I think that's also another big factor. And of course, you're probably not going to win that way. So it just depends. Does he want to win? Does he want more money? Like, I think it's more he's banking on himself. And that's good. I like that he's banking on himself. That's awesome. I think he's going to do it. I think he will become the first 450 plus 500, whatever it is, $1 million man. And it's probably going to be out of our price range. But that will not be out of a Dodgers, Yankees, Mets price range. Even if the Nationals, if he wants to stay a National, I think that would be, but I also wouldn't doubt that they put all of their chips into Juan Soto. So yeah, I think everything comes in. All those factors are good. Like, he wants to win. He wants to see where the Nationals are, and maybe he doesn't want to be a National because they're not very good right now. And I mean, who wants to waste their career on a team that's not going to win? Nobody. That's what you're seeing a lot in sports in general right now. But if I can be the first $500 million man at the pace that I'm at right now, yeah, I'm gonna wait.
Yeah, I definitely think that makes sense. Also, Chase, I think it's super fair that you bring up like that they did really like add to their farm this year, and that over the next 2 years it's going to show a lot. I think that's super fair. My thought was just like maybe his thought process, like, no, I'm gonna end up leaving. And also, Isaac, you bring it up, maybe that is his thought process, and he is going to go chase a $500 million contract. That is insane. Yeah, that might price him out of the Padres range, considering that they would have 3 guys making $1 billion over the next like 10, 12 years. Yeah, that'd be crazy. But yeah, no, it's real interesting. I would love for him to be in a Padres uniform, though it is super, super unlikely. Even though you never know with this stuff. I mean, we've seen that the Padres really try to swing for like mega stars, and those are usually the names that they try to get in on. But it does seem extremely unlikely, considering that the Nationals are not going to trade him. And I do think that that's a fair point. I brought up that maybe they could if like you're kind of like not getting the value back for him. But if they do believe that they can keep him and build around him and then get him back, that makes more sense. Like, that's how you're going to build a better winning team. So I do agree with you there, Chase. But I think that kind of does it for Juan Soto. One thing we would like to share, yesterday was our 1-year anniversary of starting YouTube. So pretty exciting stuff. Got to 1,340 subs, which was like well beyond our goal. So appreciate all the support, all the following. It's been super fun to be posting a bunch. I think this is going to be like our 295th video, I want to say. I think that includes live streams as well. Next year, we're hoping to get over, or this next year, we're hoping to get over 300 and try to get to almost every single day. So it's been super fun. Really, really enjoyed, posting about the Padres every day, and we're going to continue to do it next season. Hopefully the lockout ends soon. We will be discussing some of the aspects of that tomorrow, including the new playoff format, which is very, very interesting, especially considering how good the NL West has been in the past. But with all that said, thank you again, guys, for all the support. Really, really appreciate it. And hopefully somehow Juan Soto does become a San Diego Padre.